Okay, let's go to the second part of this interview, and we start all over again with the negative sides of each party's campaign.
So the ANC were very slow out of the starting blocks. I've been in Mpumalanga, Gauteng, Free State, and the Western Cape during this election campaign. And it was only till very recently that the ANC's election posters went up. And this was a party which really got going very, very slowly. And obviously there was the mess up of the lists. So the party was scrambling to get their lists organized. And there was complaints about the lists once they got their lists organized. And so this was a party which was very, very slow to get going. Then there was a variety of scandals. I mean, I think load shedding reflects badly on the party, that is a sign of poor service delivery. The corruption or the tender scandal in Enoch Mgijima municipality, which is Komani, formerly Queenstown in the Eastern Cape. I think that where you saw a stadium which cost many millions of rands to build as per the tender, and the community there got very little in return. And then places like Mfuleni, Vanderbijl Park and Vereniging are continually in the news for very bad or very poor reasons. The Auditors General's report reflected poorly on many ANC places. So that idea that very little was achieved in the last 5 years of service delivery on the front of service delivery in many ANC municipalities across the country. I think those things reflect poorly. Also, the challenge in KwaZulu-Natal with very prominent people like former President Zuma and former Premier Zweli Mkhize, either not being the front and center of campaign, being in courtrooms. I think that has also stymied their work in KwaZulu-Natal. When one goes to the Democratic Alliance, I think a lot of their wounds have been self-inflicted and could have actually easily been avoided. When one considers the posters in Phoenix, I think it is one thing to honor a community which cares about its property, cares about its suburb, cares about its neighborhood. It's another thing to try set a grenade off in quite a sensitive area. And by the way, when you're trying to be a party which appeals to all South Africans, which I think is a very laudable project, very few parties are actually actively trying to do that. And you put a community up against another community, I think you're falling short of their goals. Then you had the chief whip of the DA having a meltdown on social media, where, I mean, this was astonishing. Instead of campaigning in the capital, which is Natasha Matsoni's constituency, she was arguing with trolls on Twitter. I mean, those things, I believe, could easily have been avoided. And then finally, where John Steenhuisen found himself next to One South African Movement organizer and Gareth Cliff, sitting there. How did he ever agree to that interview? How did the people advising him convince him to do it? Why did he have to go speak about a language issue on a podcast with Gareth Cliff? So what I'm trying to say is the DA have had 3 very serious missteps, which I think all could have been avoided. And instead of concentrating on the message about getting things done and making this election about service delivery, they have set their own traps and walked into it. So I think those are some of the things which have affected the DA negatively in this campaign. When it comes to the EFF, there's actually very little negative things to report on from the EFF. I think they have said the right things for their constituents. I think the challenge, though, Isak, is that after this election, the EFF will not have the luxury of doing what they did in 2016. They will have to sit in a coalition. They will have to take mayoral committee positions. And that is going to be a challenge for the EFF party rather after the election. And the same for the Vryheidsfront Plus, for the Freedom Front Plus. I think they've run a seamless campaign. By the way, I said this earlier about other parts of the country. So let me just go back to the DA positive. For instance, their campaign in the Western Cape has largely been flawless. And it's been a focused, disciplined campaign, which is the same as the Freedom Front Plus nationally and the EFF. And that is not dragging yourself into dangerous territory, not dragging yourself into issues which are likely to undermine your message and undermine your party. And I think the Freedom Front and the EFF, and it's fascinating to speak about them in the same sentence, have been disciplined in that regard.
Yeah. Well, that's Wayne Sussman talking to us. Wayne, thank you very much.